So LG get the 2-0. Memory of game 1-1 with E United, and now it's into the second half of today. Flashpoint, first of all, up will be taking on, as I just double-check my notes to make sure I get this wrong, is Allegiance. But the match we're going to focus on, first of all, is Eager versus Monkey Madness. Monkey Madness played on Thursday, got a split with LG.
And for those of you who are still a little bit unfamiliar with this name change, Monkey Madness is formerly known as Soar Gaming. They recently changed their name up after leaving the sponsor, but
I actually think we should have formerly known as underneath every team, and if they've not changed, we just leave it. So Eager, formerly known as Eager, you know, just like that, just in case. It's a safety feature then, so everybody knows who we're talking about. But yeah, Monkey Madness, they played well against Luminosity. Were they playing at the level we expected them to?
I think that M&M were probably, if anything, slightly disappointed with their performance. I think that they're a team that holds themselves to fairly high standards. You have players such as Homefe and Nasser, and I think even Fine OK, although he's newer to the competitive side of things, he's still in his rookie season. I think at the same time, he's somebody who sets the bar pretty high for himself. Like he doesn't want to be somebody that is just subpar. He loves being in the control and leading his team from the front.
Well, funny enough, you bring up Fine OK, because he was the one I waited to watch this game up against Devios, and Fine OK, he's made this transition into the Pro League now in the Challenger circuit for a while. How do you think he's done overall? You've mentioned it yourself. You think he's been doing okay and like stepping up. Does he need to step up more in matchups like this against Devios?
It's not necessarily stepping things up because you never want to go into it with a little bit of overconfidence. That can work against you if you try to take too much out of everything. But I think that if he just keeps playing the same game that he's been playing, add a little bit more effects, then he'll be fine. He just needs to help out his team primarily and help set up Homefe and Andister.
Well, Fine OK is the new guard. The old guard against him today is Devios in the solo lane, still returning for Eager this split. And what can we say about Devios that hasn't been said before? Are we expecting different things out of him this split now that DJ Pernicus isn't on this team, Taco?
I would say that Devios is probably going to be picking a little bit more to the meta. I think that Eager before tended to focus a little bit about trying to be outside of the box, and sometimes that could ultimately lead to their downfall, as we've seen from previous performances. So if Devios can also help their new jungler, Sam for Soccer, get up off the ground in their set against Monkey Madness, then I think that it'll be an excellent setup.
Well, final points on this set then, Taco. The question is where's your money? Who's it on? Is it Eager or is it Monkey Madness for this?
If Sam for Soccer performs the way that I've seen him play in the AVGL League, in Ranked, and just Challenger, then I would say that Eager probably wins. If Sam for Soccer is affected, though, this is Monkey Madness's.
Interesting. Well, we'll see what happens with Eager versus Monkey Madness. But the next set we have on the docks for you is ALG up against Flashpoint. ALG, sorry, with the one that got the split with Luminosity on Thursday. My bad, I don't know why I said Monkey Madness did. But ALG found that split with Weekend in tow, had a great performance for themselves. Metyankey was part of that as well. The whole squad doing good things from Allegiance up against Flashpoint today. What are we expecting here?
Metyankey did a pretty excellent job on the ISIS on Thursday, but I think that I prefer to see him on a mid laner that isn't so vulnerable.
Sure.
I think that Metyankey is a strong enough mechanical player to where he can play something a little bit riskier, but has some survivability, such as an Agni, for instance.
And I guess I can go back to the question I said earlier, which was incorrect. But now, Allegiance, after finding that split against Luminosity, they're definitely playing up more than people probably expected here. And now coming up against Flashpoint, this should be a quick and easy 2-0, right? If you can take on LG, who are seen as the #1 team in North America, surely you can beat Flashpoint.
I don't think that anything's guaranteed quick and easy 2-0 in NA anymore. I think that a lot of these teams that some people would probably undervalue, for instance, Flashpoint's perfect example, because you're like, oh, Shadowq picked up 3 rookies again, so GG to that team and whoever they play. But those players are still just as hungry as anybody else, if not more so, because they're so new to everything. They want to prove. They feel like they have so much to prove of themselves that they're just going to try and do everything in their power to assure that they get victory.
And I think that's going to be the key with Flashpoint here, because obviously they've got Shadowq and Mirage still returning to this roster, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the other 3 are all new rookies to the Pro League. Going to be a tough time for them here today, but it's a good way, I guess, for these guys to work out how good they can be.
It'll be an excellent opportunity. I think that this is certainly a match that's more geared towards their skill set for them to check out. And I really want to see a little bit more from sops, I would say, than anyone else, because we haven't really had the opportunity quite yet to see as much out of sops, I believe. And he was the newest addition for the Hunter role, you know, Xenotronics formerly being replaced. And it can be hard to say. It's tough to call whether or not it's a hard improvement.
Sure.
But I think that it's clear Shadowq saw a potential in all of these members that he brought on. And so I just want to see it really come to play.
Sounds like you might be having a split here. No?
I would probably say potentially a split.
Potentially a split between Allegiance and Flashpoint. What do you guys got at home? Tweet at us, let us know. We'll find out now, though, because it's time to go straight into the game. The casters are standing by. Allegiance versus Flashpoint.
Thank you very much, Hindu and Taco. We're ready to go. As you mentioned, Allegiance versus Flashpoint, and like they were talking about on the desk, I think Allegiance is a team that they were kind of a disappointment for a lot of their fans during the spring split. I think they would have told you that they didn't play to the level that they wanted to. But taking that split up against Luminosity, looking pretty good with NeiruMah in that support role, this is a split where they could really potentially break out and have a big one.
This new support player for Team Allegiance could be what revitalizes Team Allegiance moving forward in the summer split. Now taking on Flashpoint, a team that's been struggling a lot in the past. And ever since Season 3, this team really hasn't found its true identity. Every single split and season, they've been changing their roster quite heavily.
That's right. We're getting ready to go. Picks and bans here for game number 1, Allegiance and Flashpoint. It's going to be ALG in that first pick position, and immediately they take away the Terra. And this is a god that teams either seem to want to first pick or ban away as kind of a, yeah, this is good, but we're not that worried about it kind of ban.
I think NeiruMah has such a big god pool that he doesn't really care about some of these Terras or the Fafnir. Flashpoint, they need to ban out Fafnir to not allow NeiruMah to pick that one up. But his god pool is so diverse that it doesn't really matter whether or not he gets those two supports.
Could matter that CycloneSpin just got Bellona. That could certainly matter for DanteLeFargo in that solo lane for Flashpoint. Interesting throwaway ban here from Allegiance. Nox targeting out Sheyka. He played that during the relegations, I believe during the SPL as well. So taking it away from the mid laner, and I suppose if you're looking to just give away a ban, basically just saying, yeah, we want one of these strong picks, and you can only ban away one now. Nox as good as any in that position is Khepri and Rama going to make up the dual lane for Flashpoint.
It's better than banning away the Arachne or the Anubis, right? You're actually banning away something that somebody plays instead. And Sheyka's going to have to figure out a different option moving forward. But Isis and Amaterasu here being locked in for Team Allegiance. Good mixture of early game and that late game. But this means that it's probably NeiruMah playing that Amaterasu support.
I would imagine so. Could be Bellona jungle, but no, I don't see a reason to take Bellona out of CycloneSpin's hands. You don't want to give, there's no reason not to give one of the best characters in the game right now to a guy who can make the kind of impact that CycloneSpin can. Flashpoint, they go to Mirage's Thanatos, a god that he's played a lot of, but hasn't always looked particularly comfortable in executing that god on a competitive level.
He has a very unique build whenever he plays this Thanatos, dating way back to Season 1 and Season 2 when he was known as the Dirty Bubble, actually.
Yeah.
But this time around, there's nothing dirty about his build this time. It's pretty clean.
Yeah, pretty meta these days. Certainly used to be a little bit different, but now seems to build pretty similarly to everybody else. Vamana going to be the selection there for Dante in the solo lane as Allegiance. Round out their draft was Susano and Cernunnos. So 4 physical gods here for ALG. Does that worry you at all?
In this game, so far, no, not with Amaterasu's late game potential. For the mobility that she provides for her teammates is going to be enough to make up for that, because if the team fight's not going their way, she's going to run away.
That's true. You got that movement speed. Not only can she run away, but basically everybody on Allegiance can. Flashpoint, they finish it off with that Vulcan. Let's get right into it. Game number 1 between Team Allegiance and Flashpoint. FP trying to make sure that they can continue to grow, because as they mentioned on the desk, this is Shadowq and Mirage who are about to, who are been around. They drop 3 members, or 3 members leave, however you want to see it. And now they've got 3 rookies to work with.
Still trying to figure out their identity through the SPL splits. Flashpoint need to figure out ways to win these games. And so far with their draft, they've got a nice mixture of early game and late game as well. This Vulcan has been a staple pick for a lot of mid laners recently with the changes to his passive, giving you that additional movement speed, the additional MP5 once you start hitting some of these targets. And as a result, with such short cooldowns, it's very easy to be spam-centered around this god.
And you've got good objective steal potential, even over top of that circle of protection from Metyankey. And if Allegiance want to group up on that circle of protection in a team fight in the late game, then Sheyka can really make you pay with that Vulcan ultimate, as both junglers starting on that right-hand side of the map. Flashpoint pushed in that duo lane wave, and now coming to contest that purple buff from Allegiance.
A lot of golden experience going to be lost to both NeiruMah and Oceans, but at least they get their own red buff. NeiruMah not going to absorb any of the Archer experience, which is going to allow Oceans to hit level 2, preventing the purple invade from coming out because they're still only level 1 on Shadowq and sops.
Only Oceans level 2 in that wave when this second wave hits, so good plays there, and Shadowq immediately going to take quite a bit of damage from the ALG Hunter. But it is Flashpoint still ending up on top in terms of total clear, but not enough so to try and invade on that left side. It's going to be ALG just going back towards their own purple, while Flashpoint does the same.
And because Vulcan on Sheyka started to make the rotation around that dual lane, Oceans and NeiruMah was a little deterred from potentially invading, despite Oceans being level 3, whereas sops was level 2, securing their own purple buff for themselves, and that should give them plenty of control here because the red buff went in the way of Sheyka instead of sops.
And Sheyka has that Bumba's Mask. He cleared that red buff all by himself. Thought about doing the back harpies as well, but wanted to clean up that mid wave just in case. Both mid laners have been left entirely alone throughout this early game. It's been that solo side that both junglers have really been prioritizing, and it's Metyankey who's got that slight advantage in XP, but that's to be expected when you have an Isis.
Yes, considering the Vulcan did share a little bit of experience as he pulled it towards the purple buff to help out sops and Shadowq in the dueling. The Isis will hit level 5 first. Could look for a play off of that alone, and both of these junglers has just sat in that soul lane for so long. That's to be expected coming out of Weekend because, you know, it's just Weekend and Cyclone. They hold hands together in the jungle and in the soul lane in the early game, but I think Mirage has been sitting here just to make sure DanteLeFargo playing this Vamana doesn't get terribly far behind in the early game.
And now Sops in trouble on this left-hand side. Ocean's gonna get the first blood for Allegiance. Now Shadowq in trouble, still has the abduct, so he's gonna be safe. But Oceans takes advantage of that XP lead and gets the first blood. Now Weekend is here.
Weekend.
Sunder, Stormkata, dead. Second kill for Allegiance as the duo lane for Flashpoint falls early.
So clean performance thus far out of Weekend and the dual lane out of Allegiance. That's going to hurt the dual lane quite heavily out of Flashpoint because now it's going to be that 1 to 2 level separation gap between sops and Ocean. These oracles should be going the way of Team Allegiance on every single respawn as well. And Sheyka's just sitting there with his hands in his head, like, not like this.
They can't have that dual lane get too far ahead, especially whenever it's an Amaterasu support. Amaterasu support works because of the movement speed aura, because of the damage aura, and then of course a little bit of control with that silence and the ultimate being on such short cooldown. But whenever Amaterasu in the support role gets ahead, not only are all of those things still true, but that's also pretty significant damage in the early to mid game that you have to start worrying about.
And I think that this pick was also trying to shut down the Khepri, trying to lock him down. The ultimate from NeiruMah is going to guarantee stun Shadowq, and that can be used to sunder him after the stun, and then any sort of other abilities to follow up, preventing the Scarab's Blessing from even going off potentially.
And again, I think I talked about this yesterday on the EU broadcast, but with Sunder being so prevalent, and so many junglers picking up Sunder instead of purification beads at the beginning, I feel like the natural response from teams would be to go for heavy CC compositions to punish junglers that do want to go Sunder right away. As CycloneSpin goes up right on top of Mirage, doesn't get a chance to steal that blue buff away. Mirage accidentally even picking it up by going into the hovering death right on top of where the buff fell.
He got a little bit of additional health from that Bumba's Mask, from the Death Scythe, and finding the last hits onto that blue, but because of the immobileness out of hovering death, he couldn't really avoid picking up that blue buff, which is hurting DanteLeFargo in that laning phase that's already struggling against CycloneSpin's Bellona, already a level behind.
And that's why, the kids watching at home, that's why you save your abilities to confirm a buff, because if Mirage had just used the Death Scythe to start off that camp and didn't have it up in time, that heal, that was a big burst heal that came through, not only from the Bumbas, as you mentioned, from the Death Scythe hitting and the Thanatos passive killing the minion at the same time. That was a lot of health that Mirage probably would have died without.
A lot of people don't realize this, but Thanatos can be quite a big nuisance in some of these team fights. You bait yourself in an awkward situation to be able to get off poke, and then you go clear out mid Harpies, for example, real quick, and clearing out the Gold Fury at the 5-minute mark. Allegiance on top.
That's exactly what Isis does best, burning that objective, and again, Synergizes beautifully with that Amaterasu support, not only because of the damage aura, but the Amaterasu passive, making a target that get hits by 3 of her auto attacks take more damage from all sources. It's kind of like an objective Sunder, if you will.
Why not have more Sunders inside the God Kits? NeiruMah doing wonders here with his support Amaterasu thus far, being an absolute monster here, having to retreat from their own jungle side. Sops and Shadowq struggling. They're 1 level behind their counterparts.
Yeah, and going back to what I was talking about earlier, Weekend's able to pick up Sunder because of this draft that Flashpoint has gone for, as Sheyka is in a bunch of trouble in the mid lane. Weekend must not have had Wind Siphon available, because if he pulls Sheyka in, I think that's a dead Vulcan. In fact, yes, just now coming off cooldown, a very long cooldown on that disruptive second ability for Susano. But there's no stuns on the side of Flashpoint, as Sheyka is in the wrong spot here. That Spirit Ball doesn't hit, but it doesn't matter. Metyankey's still going to get the kill. Mirage lands on a Weekend, and that's what I'm talking about. That stun sets it all up. Weekend's got no chance to get out of that, Tully.
No defensive relics for this jungler out of Team Allegiance. It's a very easy cleanup kill. Now NeiruMah dashing in. Nice revive from Shadowq, keeping his jungler alive, but NeiruMah might have bit off more than he could chew as the solo laners made the rotation before CycloneSpin.
Yeah, no chance for him to get out of that one. So it ends up being a 2-for-1 in that scenario for Flashpoint. Good answer back by a lot of the rookies on that squad. Dante still even has the teleport, so not going to lose too much in terms of farm on the right-hand side.
But the blue buff is about to respawn here for Flashpoint. CycloneSpin could look to potentially invade that. Still about 1.5 levels is CycloneSpin being able to really control these Fire Giant Elementals, being a distraction here, being able to really bully the early game.
Ooh, Dante's actually the one that gets the big Fire Elemental there, so slight victory for Flashpoint.
CycloneSpin put his back towards the jungle side out of Flashpoint, expecting to clear out those elementals for free and then invade the blue buff afterwards, with CycloneSpin and Weekend right here around the blue buff, as well as NeiruMah. This blue buff, no contention from DanteLeFargo or his teammates, and this tower might go down right now.
Just not enough mana for DanteLeFargo to be there and contest. And again, that goes back to him losing the previous few blue buffs. Even though Flashpoint secured the last one, Mirage was the one to pick it up accidentally. So not enough mana for DanteLeFargo to fight, even with the numbers advantage. Shadowq the focus for Metyankey, at least for the moment, as Mirage and the rest of Flashpoint secure that speed, but it's Allegiance who secure the life. Actually, Allegiance secured the speed as well, so doubly bad there if you're rooting for Flashpoint. Mirage just not able to get the heal off. Maybe if he does secure that speed buff, he gets healthy enough to get up into the hovering death.
Not only that, the great zoning against Shadowq, preventing him from getting in position to use that Scarab's Blessing. All the defensive options from Flashpoint have been stripped by the grouping up from Allegiance. They stripped away the blue, now they stripped away the speed. Their goal lead is now getting almost out of hand. 3,000, not even 9 minutes in, and 4,000 experience to boot.
Allegiance very clean thus far, and the draft just keeps getting better for me, because the more you think about the interactions, I mean, Metyankey on this Isis is one of those characters that can make Shadowq's life on this Khepri very, very difficult, because even something as simple as a silence, right as everyone else on Allegiance is about to kill a member of Flashpoint, is enough. That's why we see so many teams like to play Hunbats and things like that up against Khepri, because you can disrupt him as you're killing one of his teammates. But Metyankey can do that job all on his own. Dante gets pulled out of his dash there. Sunder comes through, Typhoon as well, and the bludgeon just stomps down Dante. The big baby, doesn't matter how big he is, CycloneSpin takes him down.
It's because of the Sunder that just has the increased amplification damage of every other source. Despite getting all those protections in the Colossal form for DanteLeFargo, it's not enough to survive against a maxed out bludgeon there.
And that's exactly what you have to expect if you're Flashpoint, is that Weekend is going to be on that right-hand side. Cyclone's going to try and get ahead, and that's where ALG's lead is going to really start to materialize. The problem for Flashpoint is that on the left side of the map, ALG's done the exact same thing. It's Oceans up in levels pretty significantly over Sops, a full level plus, as Sops just now hit level 10. And there's no wards on that right side of the map for Flashpoint. There is one ward by their own speed buff, but with the pathing the Weekend has been taking, that's not going to spot him out.
Not at all, and with Golf here respawning in about 10 seconds, Allegiance has an interesting idea of what they want to do. By having CycloneSpin 1v2 in the soul lane, the rest of Allegiance is going to use this opportunity to secure themselves the Portal Demon.
Oh, Sheyka's ult's coming though, and that's going to go the way of Flashpoint. A good ultimate coming out of the Flashpoint's rookie mid laner, steals away that objective. Metyankey never dropped his circle of protection, and Allegiance just couldn't drop the objective in time.
But this means that Metyankey, with his own circle of protection available, could transition towards that Gold Fury. 750 gold is nice for Flashpoint, but Allegiance is about to get more than 1,000 off of this Gold Fury.
If they're able to secure it, that's the big question, though. Dante is going to proxy that wave on the right-hand side to make sure that he is free to rotate if this Gold Fury does get pulled by Allegiance. Flashpoint also had the Oracle Vision there for the time being, and I think that's another reason why Allegiance wasn't quite as keen on pulling that objective. Sheyka having Sands of Time as well, that 10% CDR means that Earthshaker is going to come up a little bit sooner than it would normally.
Absolutely, and Mirage going for a Shifter Shield, whereas we're seeing Hydra's Lament out of Weekend, still trying to be that heavy burst damage jungler, and the way he's been playing it, it makes a lot of sense. Allegiance now starting up the Gold Fury at the 11-minute mark, Circle Protection finally being used, and second Gold Fury going the way of Allegiance.
Exactly what you were talking about, Tolly. As soon as Allegiance get an inch, they're able to take the Gold Fury so quickly. Dante's teleported in the wrong spot, my friend. Shadowq does get the ultimate off in time to save his solo laner's life, and now Weekend is the one who's very low, can't juke out the execute. Mirage finds the kill. Sheyka's ultimate's in a different area code than the rest of Allegiance. They don't even have to worry about it, as now Cyclone stuns 2 with that Eagles rally. Good damage coming out of Metyankey as well. Sheyka very, very low. He just escapes. No, the reflective mirror over the wall. NeiruMah with the kill. Snipes from Sops. Needs the third. Can't quite find it. A 3-for-1. Allegiance continues the siege.
There was a nice execute onto Weekend, but it's going to be a nicer objective for Team Allegiance on the Tier 1 tower, securing themselves a Gold Fury previously. The speed or the blue is not available for them to strip away, but that's a lot of gold that they just received after those 2 objectives.
Tons of gold, without a doubt. And Weekend is sitting at level 11 right now, has been 2 of the 3 deaths for Allegiance. And again, a lot of that going back to the Sunder pickup instead of the Purification beads at level 1. But now that he's level 12, he's going to be able to back and get those beads. So it's going to be even harder for Flashpoint to exploit this mobile jungler who really has just been taken advantage of again because he didn't have the beats.
It could also be the Aegis Amulet, actually, just to avoid the execute coming out of Mirage. We see even CycloneSpin going for the second relic, and look at this. Weekend picking up the Aegis Amulet just to prevent that execute. It's such a crucial opportunity, because as long as Weekend chooses the right timing to be able to get in and out of action, he has to avoid Shadowq's control more than anything else. If he gets hit by a random meatball, then okay, that's bad positioning on terms of Weekend's fault, but he can control how far away he is from Shadowq.
Exactly, and Meatball is one of those slower abilities, and Susano is one of the fastest characters because even with his two mobility abilities, once those are down, he gets increased movement speed after that, so good luck catching him. Sops throws down a ward that Weekend's going to immediately counter on that left side.
Did you just throw a regular ward?
Oh no, it is a regular ward. He's got a sentry in his inventory, but decided not to use it.
Maybe he accidentally tried to use the sentry ward. He's like, well, I'm not going to throw both of my wards here just to counter this ward. But either way, recognizing that ward is there, it's going to prevent any sort of ganks in the dual lane. For the time being, Weekend's going to back to base here. And I love this Aegis Amulet pickup for him. He's going to be able to survive very easily against Mirage, who's completed now the Shifter Shield, getting even more physical power for his Death Sights.
Oceans has a big power spike right now. Not in terms of the actual power numbers, because he's got very little in his build. Really only the Bluestone and the boots providing outright power, though Ichabod does, and when you factor in the passive. As Sheyka uses his ultimate to secure his own red buff in that scenario. Smart play out of him. No problems with that. But this Fatalis for Oceans. Fatalis used to be picked up in this slot all the time during Season 4. Third item, perfect time for the Fatalis. But after the change, much more expensive. You also get a little bit more attack speed. Usually seen as more of a luxury item, but Oceans felt comfortable going for it early.
I think it could also be because he's playing Cernunnos. Honestly, you're having a lot of different options whenever you change the seasons between lifesteal, penetration, or physical power, so you don't necessarily have to worry about too much in your itemization, especially if somebody else on his team picks up the Shogun's Kusari for even more attack speed, but that's not the case thus far. Could be an option, though, that NeiruMah uses.
CycloneSpin is staying on this right side, whereas the rest of Allegiance is grouping on the left. Dante is hovering in that mid lane, but he's not going to get to that tier 1 tower in time. That's going to go down in favor of Allegiance. Dante just going to push that wave into the mid tower and force Allegiance back from that left side. Not going to get 500 gold of his own, but does set up a good position for Flashpoint to try and take that tower in the future.
This is more of the Season 2 CycloneSpin that we've been known to seeing. Him 3 levels ahead of his counterpart, DanteLeFargo, struggling on this Vamana for good reason too, because Bellona is not a very easy matchup for Vamana, but it's also weakened just assisting CycloneSpin in that lane. That 2v2 early on, Mirage versus DanteLeFargo couldn't really do much.
Exactly what I was about to say there, Toli. It's no surprise to me that CycloneSpin looks like Season 2 CycloneSpin when he's got a Season 2 jungler right there next to him in Weekend. Weekend gonna poke out Dante, accidentally pull the Fire Giant and eat 112 damage for his troubles, but Dante's the one who got the ward cleared off of that Fire Giant Portal Demon.
Still looking for more action in the solo lane. Even Mirage right around the corner, but CycloneSpin doesn't care. He's just going to keep on battling. He has the Scourge for the health return. Going to even use the Eagle's Rally. He tried to hit DanteLeFargo there, but it's going to connect onto Mirage instead. Still trading ulti for ulti, though.
Cyclone didn't have the Sunder in that scenario, so maybe if he does, that could have been a kill, even 2v1, but it took a 4-man rotation to stop Cyclone's aggression, and Sops is in trouble on the left. Oceans in some more, though. Silence is good from Metyankey, but the Sunder's gonna do it anyways. Dante finds the kill onto Oceans, 1-for-1 thus far. Good control coming out of Allegiance, and Dante's gonna fall to Metyankey, his 4th kill of the game, while NeiruMah tries to handle 3 by the red buff.
Mirage goes into hovering depth, finding a stun onto NeiruMah, forced to retreat. The Earth Shaker not gonna matter. CycloneSpin in the backline, cleaning up Mirage, and now Sheyka gonna get revived by Shadowq for a little bit, but Metyanky's looking for the stun.
I'm not sure how much has really helped him, Totally. Great Spirit Ball coming out of Metyankey, finds the 4th kill. Shadowq likely to be the deicide as Cyclone chases him down and squishes the bug with the hammer. Allegiance finds all 5 members of Flashpoint, and they continue to strip away their jungle.
This is the Allegiance that needs to come out every single game. Just such a great performance out of Weekend, controlling the pacing of the game despite having a scoreline of 1, 2, and 9. He set up CycloneSpin pretty well as Oceans here, making a huge impact with his start with NeiruMah playing this aggressive Amaterasu support.
Sops, even by stealing away the speed buff, cannot catch up to CycloneSpin, and again, that was all in the name of distraction as the rest of Allegiance took away their 3rd Gold Fury of the game. Allegiance has been successful in a composition that is very similar. This is their 2nd time we've seen them run this Isis in the mid lane and really exclusively focus on objectives. And clearly Flashpoint wasn't ready for it.
It doesn't seem, though, at all, because this Vulcan Thanatos, it's also the combination of Thanatos staying in the soul lane for too long. This is not something that Thanatos wants to do. Thanatos needs to be looking for some plays of his own to be trying to get somebody low enough in that execute threshold, maybe even get them low enough to utilize that passive movement speed that he gets. The Vulcan ultimate being used on the Portal Demon, assuming Allegiance was on it.
You were saying how much you liked the Aegis Amulet pickup for Weekend, but I think every single member of Allegiance actually has an Aegis Amulet.
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, all 5, including NeiruMah, including CycloneSpin. Metyankey started with it and then went Sprint in that 2nd relic slot. I love this idea from Metyankey. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that Oceans has already built Fatalis.
And not only that, they already have Amaterasu on NeiruMah, so you have a decent amount of movement speed anyway. It's a little bit of overkill. I would have liked to see it maybe if Metyankey was playing a Soul, Chronos, something like that, to really utilize the gas pedal effect, because he actually even upgraded the sprint.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, is that gas pedal is lost on Oceans. Yes, it gives him the extra movement speed, but doesn't really matter for the auto attack penalty being removed because he already has the Fatalis, as Allegiance claim yet another objective. This time it's the Portal Demon. Sops did do a good job split pushing, gets Flashpoint 500 gold on the left side of the map, but now Allegiance trying to answer back in that mid lane, 4 members strong, trying to find a pick.
And CycloneSpin is not going to allow Sops to rejoin the action quite yet. He's forced to walk back to that tier 2 instead of backing to base. And he could get cut off here, but no, going the safe way instead.
Good pathing there out of Sops, certainly very dangerous there for the new Hunter for Flashpoint. You can see how much damage that Metyankey's doing already in this game. He doesn't have a whole lot of items, 3 completed, but plenty of penetration between the Dynasty Plate Helm and the boots. And the Bancroft's Talon, just tons of damage.
Grouped up in the dual lane, the Tier 1 tower is going to be the next objective that Allegiance is going to be looking at here. Flashpoint needs to find a way to hold on to this, but the way they're grouped up, it doesn't seem that they're even wanting to defend this. Instead, grouped up around the Tier 2.
And the Gold Fury is due to respawn in about 2 minutes, so Allegiance probably not going to hang around on this left side for quite that long, though. With red buff respawning, that's a free invade, and the Oracle's coming up soon as well. DanteLeFargo loses his dash because of the good silence from Metyankey and immediately has to go into the ult. CycloneSpin technically extending the duration of this with that Mystical Mail, but I don't really think he cares very much. Now Weekend pulls him in. Surprised to not see the full commit there without Dante having his ultimate.
But still going to be able to put pressure on this Tier 2 tower. CycloneSpin going to absorb some of these tower shots while Oceans pots down some shots. The Vulcan ultimate coming through, not connecting onto anybody. DanteLeFargo eating that Spirit Ball, and Allegiance going to reset for round 2.
And look at how healthy all of Allegiance is. Really no damage onto any of them. The only worry is Metyankey's mana's a little bit low. There's a sprint pop, 3-man stun coming out of CycloneSpin. Dante controlled and knocked down very low, but the ultimate out of Shadowq will stop the aggression onto him, but that means nothing to save Sheyka's life. Both relics not enough to save the mid laner there, as another kill goes Allegiance's way, 14 in total. Another tower goes Allegiance's way, only 2 left on the map, and it looks like another objective could go their way as well, this one being the Fire Giant.
Very clean Fire Giant here. Nobody from Flashpoint around the corner. Allegiance have just extended their lead so incredibly quickly, already over 11,000, almost 12,000 gold, not even 22 minutes into the game, and with themselves a Fire Giant here, those last 2 remaining towers are certainly going to fall, extending that to about 15,000.
Quite a hill to climb for Flashpoint, and this is, as I mentioned on the desk, this is another one of those learning experience games that you have to understand. You know, like you mentioned, Mirage probably in that solo lane for a little bit too long, has to just understand that Dante is going to lose that matchup. There's not a whole lot he can do about it. As soon as you see an ice on the enemy team, you have to be worried about objectives. And these are the growing pains that a team like this with 3 rookies is going to go through.
Why not try to shut down the early game ISIS if you're Mirage playing the Thanatos, instead of just trying to sit in the lane and farm, like you said before, having to readjust some of his game plans, because it seemed like Flashpoint was trying to play Allegiance's game instead of their own.
Exactly, and that, again, one of those lessons that you have to learn as a new team, to just stick to what you want to do well instead of trying to worry about what the opposition is going to do to you. As the 4th Gold Fury goes down in Allegiance's favor. Still a little bit delayed on pushing down these towers. Oceans in base, still waiting, probably waiting to finish off an item, and there it is. The Wind Demon is going to be the pick. Probably going to sell that Bluestone Pendant shortly enough to buy Tier 3.
I like we haven't seen Wind Demon in quite a while here from a lot of these hunters, but still very diverse in a lot of these different builds. Actually going to be the Poison Star after the Rage, already having 1 stack on that Rage. After winning another team fight, we'll try to max out that crit potential, but Poison Star is going to slow down members quite heavily here, which is interesting because CycloneSpin already has the Frostbound Hammer, so in order to slow down members even further and their attack speed is not necessarily something that Oceans has to do, but it's just another form of self-peel in case DanteLeFargo gets on the loose.
That's what we get for assuming, Toli. You know what they say about, I'm not going to ask you that question. Right side tower already below, right around half HP. CycloneSpin is the only one on this right side, though. He's got the teleport available. The rest of Allegiance, they're trying to find that Tier 2 tower on the left. Weekend's found sops in that mid lane, but Shadowq is here to provide support. To execute from Mirage, not on the mark, but Aegis was there for Weekend anyways. Snipe's not there from sops either. A lot of ultimates used, and Weekend, knowing Weekend, he's just laughing about how much he got in that mid lane.
He's too fast. It's a speed buff Susano with all his cooldowns not available. I think that's like 4% movement speed per ability on cooldown. So he's getting 16% extra movement speed on top of that speed buff, making it so difficult to hit abilities that you're normally used to hitting with your eyes closed.
Now a Spirit Ball not going to hit there from Metyankey. CycloneSpin, he took down that Tier 2 on the right, while everyone from Flashpoint chased Weekend around. No towers left remaining, only Phoenixes. Shadowq in some trouble as NeiruMah the first one in underneath the Phoenix. Circle of protection down. There's that Vulcan ultimate, does a decent amount of damage, but the heal's gonna come through and pop everyone back to full HP. But even despite that whole duration, not enough tower damage to knock down the Phoenix. Oceans doesn't have any flat penetration in this build, and it really shows, doesn't get a chance to knock down the Phoenix.
Problem with CycloneSpin wasn't in position either. He was too busy on the right-hand side. Spread being proc. The Eagles rallying the backline. Stops getting stunned out. Forced to go into the Aegis and run away. Shadowq gonna revive himself. The Typhoon gonna knock up 2 members, but finally CycloneSpin diving and finding Sops.
All the way in the Titan room. Dante trying to make life difficult for Metyankey, but he's gonna be the one to turn and run. Mirage finally kills someone in that Titan room. It's Oceans who gets punished for his transgressions. CycloneSpin uses that Aegis to save his life. Nice double pull coming out of Weekend. Repositions Mirage and Dante. Dante escapes, Mirage does not. Metyankey punishes Shadowq. Now 3 dead for Flashpoint. But Allegiance has 4 members with no ultimates. They don't want to continue this siege.
Still without Oceans, making it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be to find the kill onto the Titan. Both 2 middle Phoenixes, the mid and the right side Phoenix remaining for Flashpoint. So that's the goal for Allegiance here, to try to knock down these 2 Phoenixes before ending the game. Fire Giant is about to respawn also in 35 seconds.
Almost there, but even without Oceans, Allegiance gonna go for this one. Sheyka's ultimate not gonna hit. Weekend looks to play aggressive, but is tanking up that Phoenix. He's falling low, and Sops is gonna guarantee it. That's his second kill of the game. Flashpoint successfully defend their right side Phoenix.
Just too aggressive now, Allegiance. They're not playing as cleanly as they were earlier on now, finding these 2 unnecessary deaths. Ocean's dying on the left, Weekend dying on the right. Fire Giant's about to respawn in 12 seconds, and Weekend won't necessarily be alive for it. However, Flashpoint can't really try to force it either, despite having a 5-on-4 advantage for these 30 seconds.
Portal Demon getting low. Metyankey is going to use his ultimate to try and confirm it, and it goes Allegiance's way. CycloneSpin's in there without an Aegis. Great Spirit Ball out of Metyankey, stuns out multiple, and NeiruMah also helping out the solo laner. Cyclone just able to jump away. DanteLeFargo wishes he had a jump because he's dead. Now Oceans came through the portal and is tearing it up by the Fire Giant. Double kill for the Hunter. Mirage doesn't hit the execute again. Oceans dashes out of it. Triple for Oceans. Almost finds the quad. NeiruMah finds Mirage, and Sops tries to punish the support. But Metyankey's here, low on mana, but enough to force Sops back. Flashpoint just cannot handle the Allegiance Hunter.
Just great control from Metyankey with the stuns, with the silences. The ultimate from NeiruMah came in clutch there to save CycloneSpin's life for quite a long time there. And once Oceans made the rotation with that Wild Hunt, deterred everyone else from Flashpoint away, finding some very easy kills here. He just rushed in there with his dash and crit everybody.
Fire Giant goes down. Oceans isn't going to have it, so slightly disappointing there if you're rooting for Allegiance, but either way, the other 4 members, they've all got it for the full duration. So they're going to strip away the last remaining jungle on this right side. Speed buff goes to Weekend. Blue buff going to be on the ground waiting for somebody to pick it up. As Flashpoint have to defend their middle and right side Phoenixes. They don't want any chance to come back in this one. Allegiance still has plenty of towers remaining though, Toli. Only 1 tower has been taken off the map, and that's all the way in the duo lane.
Still having to defend the left side as well from these fire minions. Sheyka's in position to do so. Sops getting his own red buff. NeiruMah and Metyankey could make this rotation, but not going to be there quite in time. Waiting for the rest of their teammates to regroup before wanting to secure some of these objectives. And that's what you need to do as a 5-man Fire Giant unit. Just wait for your team, because if you get picked off there, now you kind of wasted your own Fire Giant, and it's going to be very easy for Flashpoint to try to defend.
Mid-Phoenix group up here for Allegiance. They've got every relic they could want outside of CycloneSpin's teleport. As that Thunder comes up, Cyclone gonna be the first one in underneath that Phoenix. DanteLeFargo trying to zone on the front side as Sheyka's ultimate comes through and does some decent damage there to Metyankey. Dante's keeping the Phoenix alive for the time being. Don't know if he can keep himself alive though, as Oceans starts to tear through him. Great spear ball on Metyankey, and Oceans finds the crits on the Sops. No chance to get up into his ult in that scenario. Oceans with his 6th kill of the game. Weekend trying to get out of range of that execute, will do so successfully. Mirage looking mid, Metyankey with a well-timed Aegis stops that damage from coming through, and Oceans with another kill for Allegiance. This late game Cernunnos is just too much for Flashpoint to handle.
Weekend still hovering around the left side once Mirage committed towards the mid. Left side Phoenix falling, Sheyka barely able to escape back to his fountain. Middle Phoenix going to be aggressed on DanteLeFargo, not going to get stunned out with 2 Phoenixes down. Fire John on 4 members from Allegiance. They're looking to close things out, but there's no more waves. Hold that thought. Left side, there is 1 wave, but it's not enough to really allow Allegiance to go into the Titan room yet.
A little bit of hesitation right now from ALG as Weekend thought about teleporting that jet stream. Sheyka, no relics. Could have been a kill potential there, but instead the call is to go for this last Phoenix on the right. NeiruMah still full HP and has no problem silencing out Dante. Double knock up there from Weekend as well. The Phoenix being focused down, except for Oceans, who continues to chase into the Titan room. The rest of Allegiance more worried about the objective, and they're going to secure it. But this did allow enough time for Flashpoint's entire roster to respawn. And with 5 members still there and fairly healthy, Allegiance doesn't feel comfortable going for the win.
NeiruMah, though, half health or so. Fireshine around their waist for another minute and 10 seconds. They're going to try to catch somebody out of position. They're going to pull Shadowq into a stun, forcing Scare's Blessing on himself. Vulcan ultimate over the top, connects onto 2, but it's not too much damage. Circuit protection doesn't matter.
Not in time. Metyankey's going to fall, but Oceans is running amok. Another kill for the Hunter. Could be a double here, but Weekend's going to be the one to get it. Cyclone stuns out Sops. His Aegis is only going to last for a moment. Oceans notches his double digits. 10 out of Allegiance's 27, and they're going to take game 1 in 31 minutes over Flashpoint.
27-8. Allegiance, they looked so clean in the beginning of the game. Had a few little staggered deaths there towards the end. Oceans diving the left side, Weekend diving the right, but still finding the first victory of the set.
I mean, that happens sometimes, right? You've done so well all game. You've been so focused. You gotta loosen up a little bit in the late game, right, Tolly?
Just have a little bit of fun, you know?
Yeah.
Go ahead and throw your SPL game. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Just I can dive Titan room. It's not a big deal. I don't need to be focusing Phoenixes or objectives or anything like that. That's just kind of what happens. But either way, the real story there for Allegiance is, again, their early game goes beautifully. Both side lanes get off to a great start. Oceans with that first blood, I believe, on the left-hand side. CycloneSpin was dominant all game long up against DanteLeFargo, and Metyankey was there with the objective control. And if that works for Allegiance every game, then it's going to be very difficult to beat them, because 2 side lanes doing well and then a mid laner who can secure objectives for you is really all you need.
Flashpoint.